Welcome to PsychoScope, where human psychology is decoded.
Picture a modern office meeting or a crowded dinner party. The pace is frantic. People are talking over one another and voices constantly overlap. In almost all of these situations, there is one person sitting quietly at the table. The usual assumption from the rest of the room is that this person lacks confidence or that they have tuned out of the discussion entirely. But science tells a different story. That silence is usually a sign of intense, active mental work. Think of a fast-paced conversation like the surface of the ocean. The quick talkers are up top, reacting immediately to the noise and the chop. The quiet person in the room is like a deep-sea diver, slipping beneath the chaos into a much calmer, quieter environment. They aren't disengaged from the conversation. They are running a completely different mental operating system, one that is built for depth rather than speed. That delay before speaking isn't a personality flaw. It comes directly from how the brain is physically wired to process information. This shows an extroverted brain. Information takes a short, direct path. A thought enters, and a response comes right back out. But in an introverted brain, information takes a longer, winding route. It stops at several processing centers before becoming a spoken sentence. At each stop, the brain does heavy lifting. It checks the facts, reads the emotional tone, and considers future consequences of whatever might be said next. The quiet person does this analysis while the rest of the room moves on. They refuse to serve a half-cooked thought just to occupy airspace. You might wonder if our diver is staying underwater because they are afraid of the surface. Social anxiety feels like a physical wall. It's that racing heart and paralyzing fear that your words will be judged by the people around you. Introversion, however, is more like a rechargeable battery. You might enjoy the conversation, but the noise and crowd constantly drain your power until you retreat to a quiet room to plug back in and recharge. Over a century ago, psychologist Carl Jung established that this need for internal processing is a healthy, normal way to manage energy. When you see someone sitting in silence, it's an intentional choice to manage internal resources. It is a healthy preference, not a glitch caused by fear. Because information stops at so many nodes, checking for empathy and long-term consequences, the resulting thought is a complete synthesis. This ability to see the bigger picture without shouting over it is what psychologists call a quiet ego. While loud talkers perform the conversation, the person with a quiet ego is mapping group dynamics. They notice who looks uncomfortable, who is being ignored, and what subtle cues everyone else misses. By combining deep observation with careful analysis, they often become highly effective leaders, the kind who build trust by listening to everyone before making a move. Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak is a perfect example. He preferred working alone, allowing solitary processing to tackle complex problems that a noisy room would interrupt. True leadership and deep understanding often rely on this quiet emotional intelligence, the ability to stay calm and focused while the world around you is rushing. The modern world rarely rewards this careful observation. Social media, group chats, and corporate meetings are all calibrated to reward whoever speaks first, regardless of what they actually have to say. If you process information deeply, you have likely spent your life being told to speak up more or not let others dominate in environments that weren't built for your way of thinking. But a high volume of rapid talk cannot replace a single highly processed idea. While others tread water, the quiet observer is returning from the depths with something valuable, like a perfectly formed pearl. Measuring a person's intelligence or engagement by their speed of response is simply using the wrong metric. When that quiet person finally does speak, they often compress minutes of intense observation into one clear, powerful sentence. That depth of insight cuts through the chaotic noise of a fast-paced room, resolving the very problems the fast talkers were struggling to define. If you relate to this, you are not broken. You do not need to change the way you think, and you do not need to be louder to be heard. Possessing a brain built for depth in a world obsessed with speed isn't a weakness. It is the very thing that allows you to see what everyone else is moving too fast to notice.
The mind reveals more than words ever can. Keep exploring the psychology behind human behavior. Subscribe to PsychoScope.